to do something. I gotta teach him how to use the music, use the music a bit better in his acting. Um, I think that's a really important thing about opera acting. I think you kind of like you gotta let the music act for you a little bit. It's really important. Um, and he's just not aware enough of the score yet. So we'll have a talk about especially like the motivations of the character and everything, and maybe some specifics about the text because um yeah, I had a great teacher who used to say that you don't want to be getting up there and like reading your shopping list. Anyway, but speaking of shopping lists, here in Czechia, in the Czech Republic, one thing people often have on the list is knedlík. Knedlík in German is called Knödel. And Knödel is kind of, I guess, the sound of the week. So, and we're possibly going to have a guest on today. If you remember from our exploration of rough effects, we had this guy. To fly the banks of that chosen confessor of the tragedy. Right. So he was here, and we were talking about these kinds of sounds that we find in opera, but the one we're talking about today is, I guess, okay, so maybe it shouldn't be called the Knödel, because it's pejorative. We're already saying that it's bad when we call it that. I think that word is kind of not the best. I don't have the best word for it. We could just, I guess, rescue the words. I don't know. Rescue the word and not consider it bad. But we had shall we say, a guest teacher on. That was Gemma Sugru, and she was
Welcome to today's
introducing
video. The vocal
the
technique
concept
I want to share
to
with
us.
you today turned my
And
world upside down.
she mentioned a couple of important examples that not everybody knows, but that most people know. And one really famous example of this sound from pop music is who did she use? Shakira. It was Shakira, I think. And of course, Kermit the Frog. So Kermit the Frog, this sound that I'm making right now is related to what we're going to be talking about, but as you can hear, nobody's really singing opera like this. Although if I really start to modify it, some people kind of are. Now that's exaggerated, but there's I guess a serious version of the Knödel, and if we do something like, "Oh, Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside." This kind of sounds, and greetings from Colombia, Juan Sebastian. So this kind of sound is related to what I was just doing with Kermit the Frog, but it's not as ridiculous. So let's talk about what this Knödel is, how we can express what it is in new school singing, if you will, using these areas of interest that I've introduced, and we're going to look at some specific and famous examples from opera, and then we can talk about how in some cases this is pretty successful. And then if you have your own examples that you want to talk about, let's talk about them. And Maria Callas was totally by accident that she came up in the rotation of random songs that are supposed to be not getting me in trouble for copyright. But Maria Callas had an interesting something to her sound. What was it? Is it knurtle? Is it something else? I think it's something else that we can name after a different cartoon character. So instead of Kermit or Knurtle, it's gonna be maybe something we can call Stitch. And maybe when we get Tony Linke on, if he comes on, he's gonna be able to show us some examples of that. But stay tuned anyway. I'm going to see if I can play my cool theme song. And if it doesn't work, I'll be back sooner than I was hoping. But so here we go, because it's time for school. No, that didn't work. Yeah, sort of worked. Okay, yeah. Didn't exactly work, but that's the closest I've gotten to work. Programming stuff in this OBS is fun. It's fun. I didn't have time to clean that up. I was cutting the dog's hair today for most of the day, actually. It's really sad, and if you guys wanna donate to the cat, unfortunately the cat is not too happy about the dog, so it hasn't been coming around, and I haven't been buying a lot of cat food. But if you do want to do things for Mr. Opera's animals, and you don't want to send money for Mr. Opera to his coffee account, but you like this content, then you should know that I got this cat from a person who was completely neglecting the dog for like many months, and now I have this huge job of trying to clean up the coat, and I really need silver-plated scissors and combs and stuff, or at least something nice and stainless. Something classy, so that the dog feels, proud of being groomed and having its hair cut so short. But anyway, yeah, I got a lot of mats out of the hair today, and that's great. Really, really too bad about the previous person taking care of this dog. I don't know what people are thinking these days. Just terrible people. Anyway. No, I'm sure actually that she was a really wonderful, loving person. Actually, I'm 100% positive that she's a loving and wonderful person. But let's talk about this Knurtle before I get myself into trouble. So, to recap, because I think it's necessary, we're going to mention again how Knurtle works. And where's my interesting. 1 second, guys. Oh, what have I done there? No, I did not mean to do that. 1 second. Oh, geez. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah, no, not that. Okay. Well, dadgarn it. Where's my, there's Tony. But where's my, 1 second, guys. Give me 1 moment. I will try to fix this. does. I appear to have some kind of glitches here, guys. Just 1 second. I'm not sure how this has occurred, but it has occurred. And I think if I quit OBS and come back, Okay, well, anyway, I guess I'll just have to do this by hand. Because that's not working. Okay, so I'm going to check out your questions here. So for the characteristics that really define Maria Callas, that's a really big question. And we're going to be talking about this Knödel thing today. And we're going to have a few examples. Okay, the question of Lemeshev actually might come up. We need to maybe also have Lemeshev in this group of singers that we're looking at so that we can ask if he's using the same thing as the singers we're hearing today. But yes, let me just, and now Tony Linka is ready to join, so I'm going to take a moment and bring on Tony Linka, and then hopefully he can stand by while I explain how these areas of interest work, just so that we can quickly recap. And let me see the pink trump. Yeah, so that's going to work. But I don't know why this other thing stopped working. So let me just find Zoom here. And we're going to see if we can get Tony Linka up. If you remember him from the other week. And Tony, if you're listening, well, I guess you realize I'm about to Zoom you. But please stand by. And I'll start my virtual camera here. So Tony should be able to hear me, and maybe if he nods, then I'll know that he can hear me. Does Tony hear me? Tony, do you hear me? Okay, so I guess he hears me. Let's see if I can bring him in. No. Technology. Okay. I should have Tony Linka here. And just gonna... Tony, can you hear me? Yes? Oh, yes, I can hear you. And you're blowing the thing. So hang on 1 second. I'm gonna... Oh, yes. Is this like a flex that you do?
Usually people tell me I'm too quiet because I also use
Yeah. No, well, I've got now installed into OBS this plugin that gives me a proper, like an audio monitor, so I can actually do, visually I can try to keep them kind of in the same neighborhood. So that should help today. But let me try to get you in the frame. Unless you want to move your camera, but I think the best way is if I adjust this thing here. 1 second. Yes. Oh, there you are.
Wonderful.
I don't know how it decides like where to put it. I'll make that a little bit bigger, I guess. And yeah, so there we go. Welcome, Tony Linke. I was just about to explain.
I think you still only see like 1/3 of my face.
Yeah, because I have you off to the side a bit. So just one moment. There. Oh. Oh yeah. What happened there? Okay, wait.
Like I'm lurking into the.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna maybe see if I can we can test this outside of a call, and then I could see if my video card can handle.
You can drag me into the picture and then I just change my camera.
No, it's actually what's blocking you out is a there we go. What's blocking you out is a mask to try to make you look like a nice bubble, you know?
I know, but judging from what it looks like on YouTube, you only see 1/3 of that bubble. The rest of it
Oh.
is outside of the display.
Oh, yeah. Just wait 1 second though. Wait 1 second. Yup. There we go.
Now this is interesting. Now it's not a bubble, but it's like a
Oops.
bubble with a bit of a.
Yeah.
It's an interesting shape.
Yeah.
Completely round.
No, because it's We'll never. It's okay. If I
Funny. Okay.
I'll just move you over.
So-
Yeah. It's it's you're kind of the eclipse thing. Okay. Anyway. So I was just explaining really quickly how these areas of interest work, just so that we can so people can have some idea of what I'm talking about as we go. So I was hoping you could just stand by really quickly while I do that, and then we're just going to have the reference. So very quickly, this is an app called Pink Trombone that you can find online, and I'm actually gonna run the app. Just in case we need that. And let's see here. I can draw on the screen there. So when you take the whole vocal tract, and I'm going to say this really quickly just so that we know what we're talking about and we can get on, because we got a guest here. If you look at the whole vocal tract from where your larynx currently is to the opening of it, and you drew the shortest line that you could, that would be area of interest number 1. Area of interest number 1. Okay? And if you were to make that shorter, it would raise. If you were to make it smaller, or shorter, it would raise all the resonances of your vocal tract. I'm not going to label it on here because just remember, it's the whole vocal tract. Area of interest number 2 lowers everything when you make it smaller. And area of interest number 2 starts here at the end of the vocal tract, and it goes all the way to the middle. Area of interest number 3, that's the worst 3 ever, starts here at the beginning of the vocal tract, wherever your vocal cords, let's say vocal cords today, in honor of false chord screams. So Yes. So area of interest number 3 goes all the way from the beginning of the vocal tract to halfway, wherever halfway is. Well, it's the same as where area of interest number 2 ends. I shouldn't have drawn it that way, but my hand slipped. And that one, when you make it smaller, when you make it more narrow, it raises all of the resonances of the vocal tract. So remember those, number 1, number 2, and number 3. And really quickly, number 4 is 2/3 of the way, 1/3 of the way, from the larynx, from the vocal folds to the end of the vocal tract. And number 5 is 2/3 of the way. And when I say 2/3 of the way, that's the strongest part. You're actually going from, let's say, about there to about there. And as you approach this number 5, it gets stronger. And as you approach this number 4, it gets stronger. And as you go away from it, it gets weaker. Number 4, area of interest number 4, when you make it smaller, it lowers the second resonance of the vocal tract. And whatever other resonance you're also interacting with, that's still going on when you do this. It's not like it protects you from other sound waves. That's just what's happening to the second resonance. And when you make number 5 smaller, that's going to raise the second formant. So just to be clear about what I'm saying knördel is, and you can disagree or agree with this definition, Tony, but I'm saying that knördel, here we go, knördel is when you're getting what I call a non-fungible effect from a gesture using area of interest number 3, which gives us twang, but also other forms, I say, of ring. And that the biggest difference between what knördel does or twang and knördel is that knördel is made somewhere closer to area of interest number 4, even though what makes it work is that it's area of interest number 3 still. So that twang winds up having a darkening effect or knördel, because even though as a function of making area of interest number 3 smaller in some way or more narrow in some way, it's raising all resonances of the vocal tract. Because it's going into area of interest number 4, it's lowering the second formant, and we hear that as this kind of darkening, etc., etc. So that's how I'm defining it. And then sound-wise, we're working with the definition, especially of Kermit the Frog, Shakira from yesterday. And we started listening to Nikolai Gedda a little bit, but we didn't hear too many opera sound examples so far because I got hungry. And let's see if anyone's in the chat. So Nathaniel, okay, so I guess Nathaniel's not going to be watching anymore. And we don't have to worry about his comments. And then Jay is saying, yeah, Jay Irving over on This Is Opera is saying that your mic isn't coming through properly. So let me see. Can you do a little bit of talking?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I don't know. It continues.
Oh, let's see. Well, I got you. I don't know.
I can make myself louder.
No, I got it. It looks. I don't know. You're coming through on my monitor. Just try again.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I see.
6, 7.
Okay. No. Yeah. You're not. I see what's going on. So guys, sorry about the view because I need to fix this very quickly. Okay. Yes. No, I know how I can do this. One moment, guys. I'm sorry. And thank you very much, Jay, for the heads up. That's very helpful. We're kind of, we're doing this ourselves. So we don't always have all the crazy resources. Okay, so Tony, give that a try.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
One more.
9, 10, 11.
Okay, yeah. Now I'm relatively certain that we should be able to hear you now. That Jay should be able to hear you. Okay. So back to the examples. We had Kermit the Frog, and we had Gemma Sugru, I think, being a bit weird because not all the examples I think were Knurtle, but that was yesterday, and this is today. And I don't. Maybe you had some examples that you wanted to look at. I can do. Yeah, I'm not gonna bother doing the actual. Whoa, I see what's going on here. I'm not gonna bother with the demonstration on pink trombone because I think it's enough. I've done it a lot of times, so if you guys want to see that, go to my video on visualizing vocal acoustics. So let's get to it. And Tony, what are some, I guess, super memorable Knurtle examples for you?
So the thing is, I distinguish 3 different kinds of Knödel.
Okay, guys. School time.
And that the Kermit thing. The Kermit thing that you talked about, that's my Kermit, my Knödel 1.
Okay.
So you could call it Kermit, but you could also call it Shakira, Christina Aguilera. Some more subtle examples of this one would be Amy Lee, the singer of Evanescence. Oh, such a hard band name to pronounce.
Of what?
Also, I've already. No, actually, that's not alcoholic. I just need any excuse to not be pronouncing the name correct.
I was drinking water here on the show yesterday, but it's Czech water, so
Czech water already has alcohol.
Well, it looks like beer to the American audience, but it's not. It's just water.
I swear it's just water. So I'm just looking on my list of
check out your bubble, by the way. Just saying, I'm a genius.
Knödel examples. Oh yeah, nice bubble.
Yes, Nathaniel, Tony can demonstrate, but you gotta stop heckling. Tony's like king. Tony was on here. We did it. We look in the things we did. We watched his Nessun Dorma, and also he does this. That's him. Yeah. So Tony's here because he's an expert. So settle down, or we'll have to put you in a timeout. Anyway.
So I have my list now. We have Why Are There So Many Songs About Rainbows? We have
this is Knurtle 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have I'm just gonna give you all examples for Knurtle 1 that I have now. I am beautiful no matter what they say. Right?
Okay.
It's slightly different, like articulation than Kermit himself. But the Knödel itself is the same. I'm on tonight, my hips don't lie.
Shakira.
Shakira,
Yeah.
same one.
This is still Knödel 1.
That's still Knödel 1, and there's gonna be more examples because now you asked for demonstrations, and I'm gonna do.
Yeah, now
each and
you've like I don't know. It's like that you poked the bear. This is for freaking Tony Linka. Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna use that opportunity. Sinead O'Connor. It's been 7 hours and 15 days. Not on every syllable, hours, but usually on the strong syllables. She uses that too. There's one album where Bob Dylan, who's usually not known for Kermit, did sing with the Kermit voice with Knödel 1.
lay. Yeah. Lay. That one? Is it?
Exactly. Now, some more female examples. There will be no white flag above my door. That one. It's a bit more subtle.
Okay. Whoa. This is still Knödel 1?
Yeah. It's this breathy version of this thing.
Okay, right.
I hear a subtle Knödel, and this is gonna offend not only classical but also pop people, in Whitney Houston.
Okay.
And
Okay, yeah.
And the last example is one that I usually use for rough vocal effects. It's I see trees of green, because you need the Kermit kind of thing to get the growl. Louis Armstrong.
Right. Okay.
And also I mentioned the singer of Evanescence.
Wait.
Yeah.
I see trees. That's without the Kermit, right?
I still hear it. It's more subtle.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's like the continuum is
right.
And then there's some people who use almost no Knödel, but a bit of it. Like, how can you see into my eyes like open doors? Okay. This one, it's quite subtle. It's less than what I did right now, but it kind of softens the sound a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know. So like for me though, you're getting some of these. It's okay. Yes, it's related, but then you're getting far from area of interest number 3, and losing the boostiness of it.
Yeah,
while keeping the sound
like
coloriness of it. Sorry, what?
Yeah, I think the part where it gets ringy is a sweet spot, where it's like,
right.
If it's too much of it, it just sounds dull.
Right.
If it's too little of it, it doesn't really have an influence. If it's the right amount.
Yes. Right. And then okay, so I interrupted you. Sorry, that's shouldn't.
So that's the Knödel 1 thing. We have Knödel 2, which is what you call the stitch because of the little stitch kind of thing. Smeagol also uses this kind of thing.
Right.
It's not my best impression.
And I was asking in the intro, and what do you think? What do you think of is maybe Maria Callas a little bit of the stitch?
We'd have to listen.
Okay.
I think it would be cool to establish the Knödels and then to listen to classical examples and see if we agree.
I've got some queued up. It might be a bit hard to.
Yeah, I'm gonna give my dozen examples for.
Yeah, and we don't want Nathaniel to get bored.
Oh, he doesn't get bored. He's so excited. He's just, writing a lot of messages. So we have Anastasia. I'm sick and tired of always being sick and tired.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. we have Mr.
I'll try.
Lava
I'll
Lava.
try to stay in the Stitch. Kind of Stitchy for the duration of. Okay.
Yeah. The Stitch also, it's always a thing with cartoon
Yes.
characters because they usually have several things going on. So Kermit the Frog also has a weird kind of pronunciation.
Yeah.
Fish
Yes.
also, the
And pitch
consonants
range.
aren't.
And a pitch range. There's no like bass Kermit.
Also, yeah. But like if you only focus on the back of the tongue, it's like
Yeah.
we could also say that
Ah.
Shaggy, Mr. Lava Lava, hey girl, this kind of thing. That's also
Okay. Yeah.
And who is that?
Shaggy, Mr. Lava Lava, bombastic,
That's Shaggy? Oh, not that. Okay, no, I was thinking there's a cartoon character from Scooby Doo, and he had like a breathy grandpa phonation kind of thing. Anyway. Yeah.
We have another cartoon example. Mr. Meeseeks from Rick and Morty. Mr. Meeseeks.
Okay. Yeah.
What else? We have one of my favorites, Ozzy Osbourne of Black Sabbath. Has he lost his mind? Can he see or is he blind? Also like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Now
Now this
I guess that's enough.
would I be wrong to describe this as like you have to send a lot of tongue to area of interest number 5 for this?
I think it's
Yeah.
maybe 5. I also feel a lot of it in 4, like nasopharynx.
Yeah. Yes.
If I exaggerate it, I get this.
Yeah.
Choking
Yeah.
sound.
But so these two, like this is yes. Like this, yes. Okay. Yes.
And the interesting thing is, you could
But
do
even if he can refuse, yes.
you could you could do a variation of this knödel too, with a lower larynx, and use that in a more classical context where
And Nathaniel interrupted us with actually a decent question. He wants to know if this is the curse of the impersonator never finding the true voice again. And Nathaniel, actually, the curse is yours. If I imitate you, I actually steal your voice. So like, yeah, it's
I'd say,
mine now. It's my true voice now. I stole it, and it's mine. So
I got this interesting question from Jay Irving, who's watching on the This Is Opera channel right now today, whether being able to do many different sounds decently hinders your authentic musical expression, or could possibly do that. And I believe it actually could, if the kind of overwhelming possibilities of directions you could go into distract you from what you really want to communicate. But I think if you still prioritize what you actually want to express, that makes your toolbox bigger.
yeah,
So
and
I think it could also help.
Yeah,
Instead
it's
of
also
just,
worth pointing out that yes, although you are correct in theory, I agree. Also, you could make the same statement about many other things that people are not worried about.
Yeah.
They do them
Yeah.
any. So, I mean, sitting on your couch too much, I think, could lead to what you're saying. And yeah, so many things could hinder you, conceivably, and probably
So,
the benefits of learning all kinds of different coordinations far outweigh any of the possible risks.
So I have a third knödel, and this one, introducing this one might lead to some of the opera examples being perceived differently between us. I think we're going to disagree on a couple of examples, because I have this third category that might sound quite a lot like the first. One of my main examples out of the pop music is Cher. Do you believe in love? This kind of thing.
Okay, that's kind of a dopey sound, no?
It's kind of a dopey sound. But then sometimes when people try to imitate Cher, they do it in the same way as Shakira. Do you believe in love? Like that.
Right. Okay.
So people don't hear the difference between the dopey sound and the Kermit because they have some similarity, right? Just like
Kermit the
form
Frog.
wise, they have similar colors. I think the production is very different though. And sometimes when I'm not sure whether someone uses the Kermit thing or the dopey thing, I listen to how
So you have the
they form their
her sound.
yeah, and she's
sorry.
doing another thing. That would be Knödel 4 if it was any, because she's just doing an R, right? But you can listen to the consonants because if I'm in the Kermit thing, I sometimes have to lose the Kermit very briefly before a consonant in order to pronounce it well. So if I lose this kind of weird dark sound for some consonants, it's probably the Kermit, the Knödel 1. If I stay in this kind of thing, if it's dopey all the time or even dopier, right? Regardless of the consonants I have to pronounce, it's probably not the Kermit.
Okay.
And that's what I kind of punch everything that is not Kermit or Stitch into category 3 because it's usually just dark sound color, or
Right.
darker than people would like to. And I believe that someone like Jonas Kaufmann is actually part of this category. I don't hear him do Kermit a lot. I hear him do something that sounds quite a lot like Kermit,
Okay.
but I hear him usually I don't hear him lose.
Do you are you
his-
talking about kind of like really sensitive phrases
I'm talking about the
where he's being kind of really Yeah, so that's
This kind of
really
thing.
sensitive sounding. So this kind of like when he has this ghost sound. Okay.
So that one, and then also what he also does, which could be a bit confusing, is he has this really weird pronunciation of e and e vowels. So he's doing it kind of like with an overtone singing tongue. E, e.
That one's all
never
kind of
e.
stitchy, right?
Mm,
Ne? No?
no, your example is Stitch, but with
Okay.
his I don't hear Stitch. I hear Albavi. So he's basically very dark.
Okay.
And then his tongue is kind of going upward as if every vowel was an American R.
Okay.
Like,
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I got you.
you. Like that. So
Okay. Yeah.
you could call that Knödel 4, and then he'd basically be combining
But-
the dopey sound and the jarl kind of tongue, right?
I get you. I mean these descriptions are to me accurate, or they're what's the word? I guess not. Yeah, accurate or precise. I guess I get you, but I don't get the basis for calling them all Knödel, or maybe there's
Basis-
something
yeah.
something
So
extra
I-
missing. But to me, this some of these have the boost effect, or some of these have what I would call a non-fungible effect. They take advantage of area of interest number 3 to give you ring, even if you don't, whether you like it or not. And I'm not a Knödel user, so whatever. Don't yell at me for I'm not defending or attacking using it. But the reason people use it, and the reason I guess let me back up for a second. I like to play a game called Why Is It Functional? And because people are often just going straight for how do I get rid of something, maybe they don't like something that they do, or they don't like something about the sound or somebody else's sound, and they jump straight to how to get rid of it. And they often use this paradigm, I guess, where if only I could not do the wrong things, I would be doing the right things. And they might consider something like Knödel one of them, and Gemma yesterday was calling it tongue tension, or saying when it's bad, it's tongue tension, so etc., etc. And if you have this and you're calling it tongue tension or whatever, I play a game called why is it functional? So like, what are you getting out of this? Why do you keep doing this? What is it doing for you? And for a lot of people, it's a way to get ring. I think it's a way to boost this. It's a way to save their asses. If they don't do something, they're gonna destroy themselves trying to get through a rehearsal, trying to get through even a voice lesson or whatever. So they do this. So in that sense, I think we need to say that some of these knurdles, at least, make your voice stronger. And I'm not saying something else would make it even stronger than that.
I think they all can, but the contexts are limited. So
Right.
the dopey sound, it only works on some vowels and some pitches. I think if I do a slide on an vowel with this kind of dopey sound, this pitch, it's not a lot of ring, but it's a bit ringy. If you do that in a pop context, everybody wants to rule, shout, shout, let it all out. That sounds ringy for pop standards. Might not be ringy enough for an opera stage, but it might be ringy enough for a Schubert lied,
Right.
for example. And so I think and if you happen to have a loud voice, which I don't know whether that's the case for Jonas Kaufmann, but probably he's decently loud, and he employs a bit of that, you're still gonna be heard a bit. It still sounds kind of classical. At least it sounds quite a lot like what most people on the street would think a classical tenor should sound like, right? And then actual other tenors might disagree and be like, oh, he's over darkening. But
Especially the ones
that's the
that
cliché.
want his job, like me.
yeah. So,
I want his job, and I hate the guy. I know. I'm just kidding.
but like to me, that's a bit ringy. That's not completely dull. It's just not as ringy as maybe Kermit could be, or as the Stitch could be. The fourth thing, I usually don't talk about Knödel 4, but like we could call the tongue thing, or that also what's she called, Gemma?
Tongue tension? No.
Yeah, but she
We can watch her
instead
thing
of
if you
Kermit,
want. I mean,
sometimes she just
have it.
demonstrates an R.
she
Kermit,
does.
Kermit the Frog. Seriously.
Uh,
Hurray, hurray, hurray.
But that's the actual Kermit.
yeah. Wait, hang on.
That? Okay, let's listen to this quality being used.
I'm on tonight, you know my hips don't hide all the attraction.
That really gives
She
Shakira
does
her
she does a
signature tone
demonstration.
quality, isn't it?
Let me make
Okay,
this
so
bigger.
that's an
Some of her demonstrations
fairly
are really on
extreme
point.
Use of it. Let's find another use case. Okay, so now we're going to listen to this clip of Christina Aguilera, and I want you to look. Hear the tongue placement for that?
Let me go through, because there is one where she does with. Wait. I think I know the right bit and how to visually. I'll know when I see the bit. 1 second. Come on, Jim. Here we go. Okay.
So Voce Vista is like a visualizer
She does a
for the
Voce Vista
voice.
thing.
So have a look at what my voice looks like when I sing we're. So I want you
Ah.
watching from about 1500 hertz up to about 3000 hertz and see what happens when I do we're. We're.
Look at us in a row there. So now she's doing
How
it with the
cool.
weird ear.
So we have
Yeah.
this pure sweep up and down through all of these magic frequencies that we want to boost in the
Is that
sound
what you
to give
meant?
us more power.
Magic
and
But
you know,
is that
we
what
wanna
you
be
meant
able to catch a
approximately, though?
ride
This.
on one of these frequencies
Yeah.
by sweeping
So
through them.
I think
Right, so just really
Or no.
increasing our chances.
No,
think when
not
she-
really.
I think when she went to imitate singers like Christina Aguilera or Shakira, she got the Kermit sound. But when she imitated Kermit himself, She
Okay,
really
yes,
focused
yes.
on that R, and she did it here too. So
Yeah, she's
I
like,
think it
Kermit
applies
the
to
Frog, Kermit the
Cur,
Frog.
cur. And then all I hear is and I don't hear the actual Kermit. I just hear
Right.
an R.
Kermit the Frog, Kermit the Frog, or something like that.
And that's what a lot of grunge singers do. I call it
Kermit
the
the
grunge
Frog. No, it's
Jarl
Kermit the
or
Frog.
Seattle Jarl.
Okay.
It's like the evil, that's his head on the floor made of concrete. That kind of thing, right? And that's also what Jonas Kaufmann does on this
Right.
instead of right? So that it doesn't really have to do with the back of the tongue at all, but even that one, people mix it up with Kermit. So the reason I call all of those variations Kermit, or at least the three main ones, is that the perception is that it's kind of like it's a more diplomatic approach, I guess, than to say I'm gonna gatekeep the Knödel term.
Right.
Only what fits my kind of logical definition is Kermit, and everything else is not. I'm not saying my approach is better, but I'm saying
you are
I
saying
get
I'm
into less fights
gatekeeping.
right now. Because anytime someone is like, "That's a Knödel, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's call it Knödel 5 now."
Right. No, I think to me there you're giving two types of things. To me, my brain is like, well, how do I fit this into Boolean logic kind of thing? And one of them is more, I guess, in the sound color department, and one of them is more to me going in the coordination department. That's where it's like that tips the scale somehow to me, subjectively.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between adding a color to something and then when it's part of like the engine of an important part of the engine of what makes your sound go.
Yeah.
So
what we could say is probably for operatic singing, we're not gonna hear the R thing too often. We do hear it on certain syllables with Jonas Kaufmann, okay, but that's more of an exception, I think. Apart from, do you remember when that one viewer in the comments compared him to this other tenor, where you didn't really get the comparison? I don't know what the name of this other tenor was.
it certainly rings a bell.
Yeah. But basically that other tenor, I don't remember his name, but he was much more metallic, so you didn't really get the comparison, but the pronunciation of the eval was similar. You got this thing.
Okay. I think the first one is more in the Kermit direction.
Which first one?
First one I got, and we can do more. We can do another.
The first example. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
listen.
If you want, unless you don't want to go to examples yet, I think it's time though.
I won.
I think it's time, sir. Sir. So this is Nikolai Gedda. Nikolai Gedda. And some people, whatever. Some people don't like Gedda because of this, I guess. But whatever. His Pearl Fisher's Je crois entendre encore is for a lot of people like the definitive version of that. And I guess that'll help remind us that when it comes to sweeter singing, this Knödel is super big time your friend. Anyway, so here we go. And we just that's really Kermit. I'm interested especially in how the so this is Nikolai Gedda, background, polyglot extraordinaire. native French speaker. So we're not talking about someone with shall we say modified French vowels because he doesn't speak perfect French. So if you met him, I guess he's Swiss. I think he was Swiss. So there you might, you would detect an accent, right? But it would be like one of the native French accents. And this vowel choice for instead of was interesting. You wind up with a really big ah, like où se devine la présence. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, I think it's relevant to the articulation thing that you said.
Salut. So if I try the Kermit thing, salut, salut.
That's straightforward.
This one.
That one is straightforward, more or less. Yeah.
Yeah. Demeure chaste pure. Salut, demeure chaste pure. I think it's easier to open up these schwa vowels to an a. Pure.
Yeah, but check out what happens if you try. Yeah, if you try the Kernerdle along with that vowel, it's a train wreck.
You either have to make it so subtle that it doesn't work anymore, where it's there might be like 2% in there, but it's not really Kermity anymore. Or you go full Kermit, where you don't have the ring either anymore.
Yeah.
But the in between thing, I have to open my mouth more. It still sounds too
right.
Kermity.
It almost
this one. It has an open mouth. And a more subtle Kermit because of the
but just not very French to me. It's like
pura.
I can almost see George Thiel going like.
The interesting thing is, you're more of a French speaker than I am probably, but you don't speak it like demeure, chaste, et pure.
These hang on. Now you're talking about like everyday colloquial French, but this is poetic French. So there's different.
Okay, so when you read a poem, you read it out loud for someone to enjoy. Probably you do have these.
If you're reading a poem, it winds up being according to the rules of the meter, whether or not. And in this case, it's and that's why it gets a note too. So because of the rules of the meter, and then you also in poetic French, there's all kinds of crazy liaisons, which some modern French native speakers might find funny because it can be a little bit counterintuitive. Yeah. Anyway, but. No, it's just weird to my ear how modified that is, and quite suddenly, where it jumps out of the phrase too. But then the is really straightforward because it's almost a knurly. The other thing that's interesting to me is his posture is so upright. Because if I was coaching Gemma, for instance, on how to fix her knurtle, I'd be like, okay, first, push your head forward to make her more Kermit. Yeah.
I think if the chest is expanded enough, it still works. It's just if I just do this,
I think
it turns into Stitch.
So I think if you really want to be able to articulate consonants, and you really want to be able to articulate all of your vowels, and you want to be able to speak quickly, it really helps to protract your neck and then rotate your head up, which puts your that helps you, makes you able to do your knurtle with But I think, yeah. So if I started to retract my neck, salut, I guess so. It's the same Knurdle, but it stops sounding like Kermit the Frog so much.
Mm-hmm. And it has more potential for projection. Like there's always, there's always a question in neutral when you do overdrive vowels. Like when you do the shape of the shouty thing in a non-metallic mode. When does it turn metallic? In my personal opinion, it's about the airflow. But like, if you just push volume into this, does it turn into overdrive? The same question applies to Kermit, because to me, Kermit kind of prevents me from getting full metal. I might get some, maybe, but it's like, that's the odd vowel. I don't feel it as metallic, but it sounds very loud and ringy because of the Kermit. I think that posture also kind of contributes to that, because if I have this slouchy thing, it gets louder if I do this. Yeah.
He also, and also just for, I guess these days not as much, but in his days you had to stand like this for acting purposes.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna change registers, so I want to. I guess we should keep an eye on what happens to how much Knurdle, and I want to see how, like, is there more or is there less when he goes higher. It's really,
It's almost a diphthong.
Yeah. A little grunt at the end. Okay, now I also hear, and this is off the topic, I guess.
Nasality?
Yes. Yeah. Dina, mi, no, sa, na, dina,
No.
It's it's really interesting. It almost makes like a pseudo metal, like.
And I think it also does another thing. Whenever you want to glue two different coordinations together, nasality can be that glue. So you can start in a Kermity voice and go up to a non-Kermity voice, and then you can start with nasality here. I don't have Kermit there anymore. I just have nasality.
Right.
So you didn't really notice the shift as much.
Also, kind of in Dina, I would say this must be a higher larynx coordination.
Yeah, Kermit tends to be higher larynx.
And that, interestingly, if you're lowering your soft palate and your larynx is high, you might be narrowing to some extent area of interest number 3 by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
In a significant way, actually. So that this whole conflation of twang with nasality might have some basis that's more than just, I don't know how to put it, more than just people making a mistake.
Yeah, it's quite intuitive to add nasality to twang.
Right.
For most people. And it's kind of like with Estill, they have this differentiation of nasal twang versus oral twang or non-nasal twang. And I think that's kind of the same approach, the same diplomatic kind of approach as me naming just like a handful of different Knödels, even though I believe Kermit is the OG Knödel, right? Because they could say, no, they could take the CVT approach and say twang is this, nasality has nothing to do with it. What they see in just everyday teaching is when you tell people to do a twangy sound, usually what you get is
Right.
It's almost the same, but the first one,
Yeah.
no nasality. Second one,
Right.
right? So the more diplomatic thing is to say, oh, they're both twang. One we call nasal twang, one oral.
Right. But now we also have this in between thing where now this is also twang now.
Yeah, that's not good.
Because it's tongue retraction, and this is what I was saying yesterday, that the problem with calling this tongue retraction is that you have an anatomical address that's really broad, and you don't have an acoustic address really that's helping you out. And that retracting towards area of interest number 4 purely is tongue retraction, but so is retracting purely towards area of interest number 3.
Yeah.
And they're going to have opposite effects from the point of view of the second formant. So that's really not good if the same thing can mean that or the opposite.
Yeah.
So that's why tongue retraction to me is a really shitty term. Unless all you meant was any kind of tongue retraction. It's better for swallowing, I think, where in swallowing the issue, I think, is that you've got a position that's so broad, and then especially the motion, you don't know where it started, so you don't know what the motion is. Whereas in swallowing, all that's implied because we're getting our bearings from like this big bolus, this piece of food that's in your throat right now. So when they say back, they usually mean like into the food. And anyway.
Yeah.
You should have better sound now, hopefully. I turned on the original.
Perfect sound.
Oh, you had good sound on the videos so far?
Yeah.
On the Geta? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ah. Okay, I think the Knödel went out.
I think I would describe, if I would describe it as Knödely, it would be
Switch to Knödel 3? Ah, yes, I beat you to it! Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and Knödel 3 is basically vocal tract lengthening.
Yeah, or any kind of vocal tract modification that makes it sound dopey. It could be longer. The interesting thing is Knödel 3 could be nasal or not nasal. I think in this case it is nasal. But I mean it's just a big box where I put everything that is not Knödel 1 and 2 in there. But it's like I could have ho ho ho, which is not nasal, but I could also have ho ho ho, where I have a bit of nasality, right? And he's I think he's still rocking that nasality there. But the kind of dopey thing could be either or, and that's an interesting thing about nasality in general, by the way, because sometimes people say opening the nose brightens the sound, and then other people say no, opening the nose dampens certain frequencies, so it has to get darker. I think it depends on the context. It's a bit like nasality relates to to sound color, like weed relates to mood. So if you have a bright mood already, smoking a joint might increase your mood even further. But if you have a bad mood already, you better stay away from the weed.
Wait, 1 second.
Because yeah.
Okay. What did you see? Did you see that on your end?
Drugs.
Did you saw that on your end?
No,
'Cause
I didn't
tri-
see it. I
Oh.
heard it though.
You heard it. Okay. I tried to
Um,
fix it so you would see that on your end, but you don't.
Yeah, I see it on YouTube now with a bit of delay. But
Okay.
so basically, if you have an already dark sound color, and you add nasality, to me perceptually, that's a bit subjective. It gets even darker. If I have an already bright sound color like oral twang and I turn it into nasal twang, turns even brighter in my perception.
This Knurtle 3 is also kind of like this filter that I have on that I can use that kind
Yeah.
of adds Knurtle 3 to my voice, doesn't it? This,
Yeah.
Anyway, so I is it off now? It should be off.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted to point out while we stopped that all of these, not all of these, but many of these mouth positions that you're seeing are not mouth positions you would see if we were watching Franco Corelli. For instance, that we would wind up seeing a lot more big square shapes or big round shapes and a lot fewer small smiley shapes. Or any kind of horizontal shapes. So you're never going to see Franco Corelli, singing a high note and he's like this or something, or like this. But you will see Nikolai Gedda doing these things. While we stopped and he's looking so happy.
It just worked well. Do you see his tongue? Do you have? Because I don't see his tongue in
Right
those
now-
pictures.
right
but
now,
do you know
no, I
what his
don't.
tongue looks like when he does that?
It looks really small at the moment.
Yeah.
It's not bigger than 1 pixel.
Yeah. But
Okay,
it would be interesting because what I noticed myself if I try to imitate his sound with that mouth shape, I get this boat. You don't
Let
get
me
as
see.
much of a boat, right?
Let me see if I can imitate it.
Yeah, I think you have it at the end, but it's not sh. It's more like sh. Like a close modification. It's not
This is
intuitive,
hard.
right?
No, for
You
me
try to
it's
do Corelli
it's
stuff all day.
Yeah, for me it's not intuitive.
Yeah.
Something like that I would
Yeah.
do. I don't know how to Hi! Shush!
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Povrati.
And then the E-vowel, by the way, is another very interesting thing in Kermit, because it's hard to have Kermit on an E-vowel, especially with that lower range. You could afford an with the Kermit down there, but it doesn't
I'm
really work.
predicting, I can't remember exactly. I think he uses an substitution.
Is easier.
Instead of E, I think he sings.
Yeah. So I think you have 3 possibilities. Either
E.
substitute to U, lose the Kermit E,
Right.
or go to a really, really open smile. So it's more of the edge kind of direction.
Anyways.
Yeah. Beautiful.
He's doing Felici.
Yeah.
Felici.
So that would be
He's used.
the
Yeah.
third option that I
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah. Si.
But the actual E, especially like the French E, where it's not E, but it's E.
Felicite. Something like that.
I think the French E is kind of like the German E. Because in Germany, I often have the problem when I have a German-speaking student, and they want to sing English music. Instead of E, they go for E. E. It's very different shapes for me. And then especially in East Germany, E. It's a bit more like that. So like the regional accent is like E. So that one, it's impossible with Kermit. E. It doesn't work. You could E or E. And E. Right?
Right.
And he's singing French. So he has to very consciously modify, I think.
I use either U. I tell people you can start by choosing substitution. Go left is U, or go right, and you're going to E.
Yep.
And you modify from there to try to fool your audience. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think he's doing more of the close thing.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of like the curbing direction vowel-wise, let's say.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And very smiley. Anyway.
Yeah. It's so interesting. In direct comparison, I think it's almost a substitution. What's the vowel E? Riche? What's the word in French?
Richesse.
Yeah, it's E.
Yeah, and he's saying richesse. Yeah.
It's not even E. I think it's E.
Let's hear. He's singing a diphthong.
Yeah.
It's a diphthong. Let's hear it again.
Yeah.
Chase.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's almost like it's almost going in the direction. It's not quite there, but it's not E. Yeah.
Yeah. It's relax and release. Let's hear. Sorry. That's a
Yeah.
Can't see, but
Yeah.
okay. Well, I think that can be pronounced either way, Sela or Sila. So anyway,
I hear eh.
but definitely he went with that. Stitch, no?
Yeah. Stitch. Let's see. Yeah, maybe a bit.
Yeah.
I think you can actually combine Stitch and Kermit.
Quand tu l'as fait si belle.
Yeah.
Quand tu l'as fait si belle. Interesting. And now the neck is protracted.
I find his mouth shape
Looks really tired there.
switches really drastically.
Yes. Yeah. I find that too, but then also these shapes to me are all what I would call very reserved shapes.
Yeah.
Very-
It's never
Yeah,
this.
they're
but,
very
within his kind of contained thing, there's still quite a lot of it just goes against this ideal, this old school ideal of same mouth shape for all the vowels, right?
Yeah, and he's very Garcia, you know, where you don't have extreme mouth shapes. Don't try to show off your teeth too much.
But he does the teeth thing, so it's like
Yeah.
part of his stuff works well with Garcia because it's never too open, but within that closed shape, it's not really uniform at all. And
Right.
what I'd interpret, like if I read Garcia, which luckily I don't have to because you do it for me. My interpretation of it.
No,
would be,
nobody has to. It's great.
As little change in math position as possible.
Okay. Right.
And he's not obeying that rule if
He's
this rule exists.
well, Garcia has, yeah, I guess so. Garcia's kind of specific, kind of
has whoa, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Oh jeez.
Garcia has like speech therapist vowels. Carrie Hobart vowels. And I think that's kind of significant to me actually, because I think where these vowels come from in the first place is these are the vowels you can make while being examined.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I think there's a tradition of that. And people have given analogies before. They get kind of swept aside, or what's the word? Brushed aside. People say you're teaching people how to. It's like teaching people how to run with their shoes tied together. What are you doing? But anyway, so let's hear the end and then go to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Because we should hear his high note. Well, that's got to be a high note. Look at that. Wait. Right? Yeah, okay, let's see. Go back a few frames. Oh, maybe not. Nope. Oh, slidey. It's like the ventriloquist position, basically. The mouth is completely closed. It's interesting. I guess before we hear the high note, we gotta ask, do you think it's weird that many people who might have a problem with Klaus Florian Vogt would either hesitate or not at all have a problem with Nikolai Gedda?
No, because Nikolai Gedda isn't singing Wagner, as far as I know.
This is Gounod, though. I mean, this is you know, this is like this is Faust. This is not I mean,
But it's
for a lot of time before Wagner, like you would talk about Faust in the way that you talk about about.
yeah,
So before Wagner, this was Wagner.
yeah, I get that, but it's like if I if I was to make a jazz version of this thing, which I'm not gonna attempt it, but like the singing of it would be Où se divine la présence, would be
Right.
like that, very sweet. Wagner, hiya, ho, ho, it doesn't work.
Right. Okay. But what if? Okay. But do you think? So I think. Forget about what you think. Let's hear it. Let's say that Vogt was singing French repertoire.
Yeah.
I'm just imagining if he was singing this with the vocal coordinations that he sings, would he get away with it? And then why not?
He is getting away with singing Wagner. He doesn't care about.
No. All right. Yeah.
right.
But would it with this crowd,
Yeah.
this purist crowd, I guess. I just have this feeling like there's a whole lot of people who, because this is from before 1975 or whatever, they treat these vocal coordinations differently from the way they would treat the same ones.
They definitely wouldn't admit that this has similarities to Klaus Vogt.
That's okay. So I'm happy with that. I think I've made
Yeah.
my point if you say that.
Yeah.
I've manipulated
get
you
the
into
point.
making my point.
I
So
I think this is subjective, of course. I think more people would call Nikolai Gedda's sound beautiful than people tend to do it with Klaus Vogt.
right.
And maybe that's just bias, but I would agree.
Right. With
Which
the caveat that some old school people despise this sound and
Yeah.
basically so but I would say they despise it in a stupid way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's hear the high C.
Yeah.
Sorry. That is too much for me. Sorry. Go get her. Uh-huh. Okay, wait a minute. That wasn't what I was expecting. Was that what you were expecting?
No,
what was it?
I was
What do you...
surprised by La Presa.
I heard, do you hear metal? I heard metal, no? Do you hear metal?
A bit, yeah.
And there's a lot of times where I'm listening to Get It where I'm more like surprised that he's not using metal, or that someone would attempt such and such without metal.
I think it's probably this thing that you talked about before, where sometimes in more lyrical singing and more dramatic singing, the top notes don't differ too much.
Right.
Where he just has a more jarring volume increase on the way upward
Yeah.
than other people.
Could I
So
sell you on reduced density edge on that, I guess?
yeah,
Yeah?
because the
Yeah.
La Presa. It's like for me that goes more the curbing direction. If I increase my twang though, which I haven't heard him introduce it, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have it. But if I I think that's
Right.
more the edge direction than this one, which is more curving, right?
Okay. So, Nikolai Gedda. Next, we have. Okay. I'm just trolling here. No, I'm not, though. Next is Marilyn Horne.
Yeah.
Famous mezzo soprano or contralto? No, mezzo soprano, I think. Anyway, I'm not sure exactly what the difference is, except for range. Range, tessitura. Okay. Yeah. It's gonna be some long intro because it's Rossini. Okay? You first.
Oh! I hear Stitch.
Stitch. No Kermit, so Knurtle 2. K2.
I'd say so.
Let's say K2. We're going to
Yeah.
call it K2.
Kneglik dus.
Knedlik 2.
No, that's
Yeah.
12.
Druhi Knedlik. Yeah.
There's this really interesting thing that I learned.
Dvoika. Let's call
from-
it Dvoika. So it's a Dvoika.
Yeah, good idea. The reason why I go to Stitch apart from the sound is strategy-wise, it would make sense to me that this would be a way of getting twang. She's in a relatively low range there, so she needs a bit of twang to be heard. But she doesn't want to sound too dramatic or too nasty. So the darkening that you get from Stitch kind of disguises twang, but you still have a bit of twang, so it's still it's still loud. It's like I'm not too good at this combination, but that's my Stitch without twang. Now I added twang. If I do the twang without the Stitch, it's a bit of like covered, right? So to me that makes sense, and I found it really fascinating when countertenor Tobias Müller showed me his approach to like falsetto.
Are you
singing
dropping names?
with?
You're dropping names.
I am dropping names, but no famous names. Not famous yet.
You heard it first here.
Just in case he's watching.
Yes. Tobias.
I'm gonna attempt it. I'm not as precise at it, but this is interesting because this is a question that you've asked too before. How do some sopranos get their M2 so metallic sounding, even though we know it probably doesn't have metal?
Right.
And
Which
what he
she's
showed
doing.
me, and
Yeah,
I hope I can kind of replicate it, but it's like instead of which is it's not too loud in that range at least. You could just add twang, but then you lose the sound color. It's
Oh, damn.
not dark enough.
Yeah.
So you could try to add some Stitch, and now let's see if I get it. Now it's a bit darker. It's not the most beautiful with me, but this one is pretty loud, but it doesn't sound as bright as the rock falsetto thing.
Right.
So I could
That's
imagine
interesting.
that this is what some sopranos are doing, and I could imagine she's taking that into the low range also.
That makes sense to me. And then that's chest release. Basically.
Yeah.
That's the famous. And then it makes sense that subjectively people would put this in the same category as metal. I think.
Yeah.
Just because of how it seems to be behaving, even in your voice, and you're not trained countertenor or anything like that. Yeah, interesting. Okay. And this to me, there was a question earlier about Maria Callas, and to me, this is the same
Yeah.
function, I guess. This K2.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, this Dvoika. This is, I guess, a reminder too that like whatever your pejorative term is, or whatever you think is maybe like a trash coordination or whatever, probably someone can take that and make it into great art. And I guess that's more of what a great singer is than whether or not they sing with a lot of metal. Although, you know, if you sing with a lot of metal, then it's a step.
If you sing with a lot of metal, it doesn't have to be as musica anymore.
Yes. No, you may. Well, no, I actually had the idea of trying to make some voice competitions that are non-artistic, like on purpose.
Interesting.
Yeah, just like who can. It's like you do a phrase, and it's like who can register the most density.
I'm gonna make an evil joke.
Sure.
Isn't this thing called the complete vocal technique certification process?
Oh no. Ouch.
I'm sorry, I love CVT.
Now I have to remember, what is this?
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
Okay, yes. So should we keep watching
more example.
Marilyn Horne, or have we summed it up? Do you want more, do you want more horn?
Yeah.
There's another tenor next, I think.
Nice.
Turn her up a little bit, maybe. That's one of the original.
It's a very
moments
dramatic violin player.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and something. It sounded almost like one of those moments when something happened with the sound at the beginning, and there's feedback. With that held.
Interesting.
With that held. Was it oboe? I think it was the oboe. Anyway, yeah. That's weird when classical music is reminding you of that.
Yeah.
It's really like, yeah, they make you an offer you can't refuse. It's, yeah.
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 You know who that reminds me of?
I'm saying,
no. If you have him ready to listen to, but Yusuf Ayvatsov.
Who?
Netrebko's husband.
Yes, I don't have him queued up.
I think he does that, but in chest voice. So it's like,
Okay.
I think it has to have the twang, so it needs a bit more twang than what she's doing there. But like that, that has some stitch.
I made by the way,
Yeah.
I made a Discord server, and I'm gonna see if there's a way with bots and stuff that I could have a source here in OBS playing videos from the web, and
Yeah.
that could be controlled in the Discord server. So basically, like, the chat could queue up videos that we watch. They could queue up the next video, and then you know, I watch it like this way. But yeah, I was just mentioning that with these bots, we can actually get the audience to queue up videos, and we would be able to, like, when we have an idea like this about what to watch, someone can go and get it for us. And we could watch it. Yeah. Anyway, so but the point was that the Mr. Netrebko sounds like this a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think he's using the same
same
kind of knödel, similar
Right.
shapes in general.
Kind of K2.
And-
K2.
Yeah, and by the way, I've seen him live, and I also know from certain sources, I'm not gonna name drop, that
This
he'll
is
tell
opera.
people
He
in
got it
master
from
classes
this is
to-
opera.
he's telling people not to go below 40% volume, but also not above 70% volume. So basically, he advocates for a reduced metallic thing all of the time.
Right.
And I saw him live, and he was medium loud, which is interesting. He was well audible, but it wasn't the loudest ever. But
Right.
Him telling that to people implies to me he could probably be louder. So that's
Right.
interesting, because it tells me it's not just a small voice or anything. He's going for the minimum necessary volume to be heard, and probably that's quite efficient and nice. So what I heard was, especially on high notes, the combination of stitch and twang, K2, and twang, it was really like piercing. Not because of the volume itself, but the frequency itself. It's quite squillant in a way, but not how you usually define it. Like most people would say he doesn't sound very like when they listen to YouTube videos. I sometimes read the comment, he doesn't have the clarity, he doesn't have the ring. He does have ring, quite a lot of it. So this is interesting to me, how apparently, of course people could just be biased and be like, even though I hear ring, I'm gonna admit he does have some of it. But
They could also
I
be
could imagine,
looking for
I could
metallic
imagine those
sound.
people are sincere, and they
Right.
wouldn't call this ring. So I think ring could also have to do with this concept of balance, darkness, and brightness, chiaroscuro,
Right.
where if it's just bright, if I do maybe people wouldn't call it ringy. People would just call it ugly or whatever, or small, even though it's louder than some sopranos I know, right? So yeah, I think maybe ring is only ring in the presence of warmth. Enough with the metaphorical terms, but like without, in the absence of more darkness, perceptual darkness, people don't tend to notice brightness as much.
I think it's possible that although what you're saying always goes with darkness, then maybe it's not the actual darkness that people are responding to. I think what they might be responding to is something like just, what's the word, reactance, or what was the word, something like, how hard is it to push one pulse of air through your vocal tract, and how hard are you pushing? It's like a combination of those two together. And one of the ways that people increase this the most is lengthening their vocal tract. when you lengthen your vocal tract and then twang and push and get a ringy sound, it's got somehow it's going to have a darker sound, but it also has this feel of more power.
Yeah.
I don't know how to it's not reactance, it's what's the word? Inertance, I guess. And I guess it's a combination of the two, where if you but at the same time, if the vocal tract is not long enough, it's never going to have that feeling of power, no matter how much you twang. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it does.
Yeah. Anyway, so shall we continue? And,
Yeah. I want to hear some tenor.
I don't think she's gonna do anything different in the rest of this video. So I think if we watch the rest of this,
let's skip to the next one.
Yeah, just a bunch of times of us saying Stitch. Okay, so this is Peter Pears, who is pretty significant in, I guess, like music history. He was the partner of Benjamin Britten, and a lot of Benjamin Britten's music was written for him, particularly all these folk song. I guess it's not written for him because the melodies weren't written for him. But Peter Pears would write him all these arrangements of traditional songs, and so etc. And then he debuted a lot of roles that Benjamin Britten wrote, I think, in like Rape of Lucretia and Taming of the Shrew, and what's that one? Anyway, there's a bunch of operas by Benjamin Britten. I don't like any of them. Anyway. So, here we go.
Now, woman as deceiver, a jilted lover sings, Waly, waly.
Of course, there we go.
Water is wide, I cannot get on, and neither have I wings to fly. Bring me a boat that will carry two.
Okay.
And both shall
Knurdle 1. K1. Yeah?
I hear K3.
K3! Okay.
So, but we cannot be sure because we'd have to scope him probably, and then we'd have to know what we are looking for actually when we scope him, because it's quite hard to scope Knurdles. But
it's tongue retraction.
I hear. I hear. Can you play one more snippet?
Yeah.
Just
keep
like
going,
3
or you want to
seconds
go
of it.
back? You want to hear the same thing you heard, or you want to?
You can go back if you want. Yeah.
Go back. Okay.
water is wide. Water is wide, I cannot get on, and neither have I wings to fly.
Especially because of the high range. Wings to. I don't hear. Wings to. It's hard to do Kermit on an U vowel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. What I do if it was
Fly,
Kermit,
fly,
I would do
wings to fly.
I'd open up to O.
Okay.
Or if it was
Okay.
if it was like I
And
mean,
that's
it's-
Knurdle
it's-
3?
Yeah, it's basically dark sound color.
Okay.
And a
I
bit
call it
dopey.
dopey sound.
Yeah. So
Um,
dopey implies to me more darkness than you'd like, right?
Now, well, this one, I think, I'm not sure, but my theory is that it's done by pulling especially with the sternothyroid, pulling kind of hard with the sternothyroid.
Yeah.
And I think that because I feel this gap widen when I'm set up for a lowish note, and I go for the sound, I feel a gap open up between my hyoid bone and my thyroid cartilage.
Yeah.
And
it's interesting because he has some ring to it. It's not zero. It's exactly the situation I described before. He's standing.
Well, I think could he be alternating this with Knödel 1?
Maybe. Could be, but it's like with the piano and also the piano not playing any super aggressive stuff. This could be enough. This is not Kermit. This is just a dopey sound.
Right.
This is what they want from me, by the way. What they wanted from me in conservatory classical
The Peter
lessons.
Pears sound. Oh, jeez. God help us.
Right? And I actually did this thing where sometimes I swapped it for Kermit to see if they noticed. The oo vowel is a bit harder, but it sounds almost the same if I succeed. And the only cue you have is my posture changing.
Right.
Because Kermit.
Okay. And
Right?
he's doing more of this tucked position that you just showed. So that's consistent with your analysis, unless.
But
do you
maybe
know where
he's gonna use more Kermit too. But let's see. I don't know him too well.
do you know where I first heard Peter Pears?
No.
I won a competition in school, and the prize was that you got to sing a concerto. It was a concerto competition. And so I got to sing this piece called "The Dream of Gerontius" by Edward Elgar. So the first thing I did was went and got a recording, of course, because you're not supposed to listen to recordings. And it was Peter Pears on the recording. And I heard this singing and I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, how is this guy a professional? Like, I hated the sound so much. Later on, actually, it's weird because this kind of grew on me, and I got really sick of Nikolai Gedda, where I probably would rather listen to Peter Pears than Gedda, and I'm gonna be listening to Peter Pears for different reasons. It's like I got over the singing. And I'm just listening to something else because he's musically really amazing and his relationship to the text is really strong. So there's something, it's like, I guess it's like what I was saying earlier. It's like he's making treasures out of these quote unquote trash vocal coordinations. But Jesus Christ, is it idiosyncratic? So anyway, a little bit more.
Yeah.
You can see I have a strong relationship to this singer, actually, emotional relationship.
Yeah.
A blues that will carry two, and both shall roam.
I think Ian Bostridge, I guess, is the new Peter Pears.
Oh, down in the meadows the other day.
This, and notice, really different from Gedda too. The head is turned the other way and the lips are covering the teeth at all times.
Yeah.
Just wanted to.
Gathering flowers both fine and gay.
Just right when I say that, he turns his head up.
Why does he? Can you switch back? Can you analyze why he does that. Maybe it's just random. Maybe it's not.
Oh, down in the meadows the other day, a gathering flowers both fine and gay, a gathering flowers both
I think there it's to do with his going up in pitch, but he also seems to be
Do
doing
you also
this.
hear nasality? On the kind of syllable?
Oh, jeez. I suppose so.
And I don't hear.
You
a
know
lot
what
of it
I
before
what I
that.
hear is my emotions.
So maybe that goes together.
Okay. I mean,
Because I think
I'm gonna
the thing
rely
is-
on you here, Tony, because you know what the loudest thing that I hear is all my emotions from being a kid, not
Yeah,
a
yeah,
kid, but from being a student and listening to this, and now so memories are coming back. And this is like smelling a smell from a long time
Yeah.
ago. So
Here's my theory. As I said before, nasality is like weed.
let's
will-
wait, back this up. Tell us again, Tony, how nasality is like weed.
I will. I will, just so we have it without any interruptions. Nasality is to sound color what weed is to your mood. If you don't have nasality in an already dark color like his dopey sound, no, it's not nasal. If you add nasality, it will make it even darker. So what would happen if you didn't change the posture is no. It would get even dopier.
Mhm.
Would get the dopey version of dopey. So what you can do to counteract that is to go more into this kind of posture. No, not nasal. No. It's
Okay.
nasal, right? So I
Um,
think he keeps the color uniform.
There's if you're rotating the head, I could point out that in this area of interests system that I showed, if you're pushing the posterior wall of the pharynx forward, you would be narrowing area of interest number 4. So that should create some darkness. And if also your head rotation is kind of pushing your tongue a little bit deeper, because your hyoid is dropping a little bit in relation to your chin. So you might, if you look in a mirror and you rotate your head, you might notice that your tongue doesn't stay still. And depending on what other postural tensions you have, and if you're looking in a mirror, I'm sure you'll hit them because they're not hard to do. You'll see your tongue drop a bit. And if you're looking at the areas of interest and thinking what's going on with area of interest number 5 when that happens, well, it's expanding, and it's expanding faster than area of interest number 2, which is the end of the mouth. So you'll get this darkening because you've both expanded area of interest number 5, which was a darkener when you expand it, and you've constricted area of interest number 4, which is a darkener when you constrict it. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's my take on that. Maybe why he's doing that.
Possible. Let's listen to even.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I knew you were telling me to keep going. So.
Yep.
red and blue.
How about this? Ooh. And blue.
Ooh. What does it sound like if you make it dopey? Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ooh. Ooh.
I think that's what I hear.
Ooh.
I think
Let me see.
his is even dopier. Ooh, ooh.
There's the position, I believe. So very small. Like cul de poule, they would say in French. Chicken's asshole. So.
Yeah. I get.
And
Yeah.
also, just while we're on the ooh, just before there was, I think, an ah, and I'm interested in his ah. What's going on with it? Is it maybe an eh?
Let's listen again.
Yeah, and does he like if he has and is he singing like and maybe? So I just want to Okay, that was red and blue. I think was the. Okay, so it was not an and. But what was the and?
And his mouth is.
Red and blue.
Yeah.
That reminds me somehow of like I don't know, some crooning.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing. Ooh, and when he wants to do a crescendo on this ooh, he's gonna wind up lengthening by pushing the lips away from the vocal tract, and then that raises, I think, the inertance a bit of the vocal tract, and then you can push into it a bit more. If I'm not mistaken, and if I'm not mistaken, this is that type 1 nonlinear interaction. When you have that. Blue. If I just try to crescendo, nothing great happens. And if I so a little bit of lengthening. And if I do your K3, it helps more. Okay. So next singer, or keep going?
Next singer. How many do you have, by the way?
I had 4, I think.
Okay.
Next is Renee Fleming. I think maybe this is the last one. Wow, this one I found so metallic. Do you hear any yet?
Nothing special, but let's keep going.
Yeah. Because I was promised Knurdle. And okay. Just messy singing.
Yeah. So I heard some on the on this pitch,
but not as noticeable as horn was.
No.
Let's see. There was a little bit, yeah. This E.
Yeah, and the chest chestier parts, I think. It's a bit hard to hear, but the range is different. So like, to me.
Hmm.
It's not really dopey yet because the vowel was quite open. Ha. But then again, I don't think it would be advisable to use Kermit Knödel 1 in this range.
Right.
So, but then I don't really hear Stitch. I don't hear.
Right.
I don't hear any of that.
So maybe some of the comments are unwarranted, maybe, or
Yeah,
maybe I picked the
to me,
wrong.
she mostly sounds like a normal
Yeah.
soprano. And
Yeah.
then on some of the lower notes, I do hear a bit of this. A
Right.
bit of this. But whatever. I mean, it's not as dopey as Pierce, for example.
Right.
Well, let's listen to a bit more of her.
Maybe that sempre was,
Well,
but it's really not.
if any, so
Yeah.
this could have a bit of the Stitch actually.
Okay. To me, it's like, yeah, it just sounds like a soprano.
Yeah, yeah.
When I was a young artist at the Metropolitan Opera, I remember watching her do this. I think. Did I see her do this? I think so. I saw her do a bunch of stuff, that's for sure. But to me, I don't remember anything like Knödel, like what I think of with Peter Pears, or even with Marilyn Horne, that was bugging me. It was just this really, really imprecise pitch rhythm relationship where, it was just, I felt like we were just kind of sliding through approximate outlines of the phrases. But it wasn't the vocal coordination that was bugging me. It was something else completely.
I think this range. So what they probably call the middle voice of the soprano. It's a bit weird because it's hard to be loud in that range.
Right.
If you're still in M2, like. This
Well,
one
to me,
I guess.
What I still don't understand, still don't understand after all this time I've spent on it, right, is why. So what exactly makes the difference, especially at the vocal fold level, between someone who's singing like, let's say, Renata Tebaldi, and someone who's singing like this? And in person, the sound difference is a lot. And I'm not that I heard Renata Tebaldi, but I've heard, shall we say, there's like a big girl soprano coordination, and then there's this, and a lot of really great sopranos use this, but that doesn't mean that it's all the same coordination. So
Yeah.
I'm not talking about being great, just for anyone who's watching this later or whatever and getting unhappy with me. I'm not talking about greatness. I'm talking just about how strong the coordination is itself. And singers like Renata Tebaldi were using something heavier, I think.
Yep.
More pushed.
I think
Sounds thicker to me. And they have this behavior of often sliding up to notes that makes me believe they're relying more on resistance to pressure to get the pitch than Renee Fleming is. And then I guess that also ties into what bugs me about her sound is where I feel like I don't hear that resistance to pressure. So I don't hear a reason to be sliding and scooping, and yet I hear the sliding and scooping. So it feels weird to me. That's what, yeah.
Yeah, I think the way I describe it very generally is airflow speed. So if I have that's a high airflow. It's almost breathy.
Right.
If I'm loud enough, nobody cares that it's veiled, because I saw
Right.
Catherine Foster live this weekend. It's nice. Anytime I come on the live stream, I've seen another Deutsche Oper production. So I've heard Catherine Foster, and she was so loud. She basically drowned out Martin Müller, which you have to be able to do that. It's not easy probably, but she wasn't ringy at all. She sounded like this. Like
Right.
this. Not super ringy. Very loud though. But that's a higher airflow to me. And then if you have more of that resistance that you talked about, that's a lower airflow, and that usually produces like a different spectral
Right. But
curve.
But I've heard varying levels of clarity within both of these.
Yeah.
So, and these varying levels of clarity should be variations in airflow as well, though. So, but I don't know. It seems like one is thick, and one is fuller density falsetto, and the other one is reduced density. I don't. That doesn't make sense to
It
say
can have
that.
a hold. It can have a hold, or it cannot have a hold, right?
Okay.
So it can be relying more or less on stretching. I think
Okay.
that's true.
And the behavior, the interesting behavior that I see is this relationship to pitch, where, when, as a tenor, you're getting into more fuller density metallic coordinations. Suddenly, some of these slides, especially like if you might have the same note repeated. And you may find it, if you're changing vowels, that it helps to actually slide up to each one, even though you already technically hit that pitch.
Yeah.
And that becomes really functional, where it's not like you're doing it just to do it, and if you take it out, it's gonna cost you to take it out. You can hit the note more clean, but it's gonna cost you in brain power or vocal power or something. And you get a resulting musical flavor, I guess, that comes from it. And I hear that in some sopranos. And it makes me wonder if there's not some kind of nonlinear behavior that's not metal, but maybe acts kind of like metal, that hasn't been talked about yet, or something like that.
I mean, the ringy countertenor thing that we had before definitely sounds as buzzy as metal does. And it has a similar volume range. It's even louder, of course, if you manage to take it higher. So I think the shaping of it is similar, or can be similar to edge mode, for example.
Right. Well,
So it would be an interesting thing to establish modes within falsetto, not just densities, but like edge falsetto.
edge,
overdrive
edgetto,
falsetto.
right.
Well, I mean, overdrive. It's the same shape,
Right.
right? And then edge. I mean, that's not what she's doing. But if you then use a bit of stitch to darken it, then you have a more classical color again. So and it could be that Renee Fleming is doing the neutral version of falsetto.
Right.
The falsetto neutral version of falsetto neutral.
Falsetto is falsettoception.
Yeah. Well,
So should we?
I don't think she sounds too weak to me, but
I'm not talking about
in the middle.
And she sounded great in the hall, like as far as like the voice. So I'm not saying anything like that. There's just, I should say lighter. It's a lighter coordination than some other sopranos. Maria Callas, for instance. Renata Tebaldi, etc., etc. So I don't hear the concerto.
But then she has to do a lot of coloratura, so probably she wouldn't be able to do that with a thicker thing.
That's the other thing, is that I tend to hear people who use that strategy of what I think is the thicker thing can sing coloratura, but they'll not be competitive with someone who's working at it all day with a lighter coordination. And not in the coloratura. Some of them switch coordinations, so they have crazy coloratura. But there's only so many hours in a day, and so the people who specialize in the lighter coordination wind up getting much faster coloratura, and then the composers make the music so much more difficult. You know, they make it more. So I think soprano is the easiest voice to sing, and let's say soprano is twice as easy as tenor. But then the composer's like, well, that's twice as easy, so I'll make the music 10 times as hard. It's like, yeah, bon appetit. So, anyway, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah.
By the way, shall we, maybe if someone has a spot in a Renee Fleming thing that has a lot of Knödel, but we could, you know what? It was Gemma that was saying
video,
she had Knödel. That's
welcome
why.
to today's video, the vocal technique I want to share with you.
Let's look real quick. Because she had Fleming in here.
Yeah.
Oh, it's later Fleming. So maybe she started Knödeling later. Let's see.
Warmth in the ringtone, I think. So I think the root of the tongue is still occupying some space in the throat
What's going
space.
on with the sound?
Oh, stunning. Oh my god. So what's the tongue position? Well, the tip of the...
So it's stunning, but did you hear a Knödel?
No.
Tongue retraction?
And I don't think it's useful to use any kind of Knödel at around A5.
Yeah.
The one thing that is useful as a soprano around A5 is to use variations of whoop.
This...
You don't need any Knödel.
Now, let's have a male example. So we're going to listen to how he sings "Wonder Where You Are."
Yeah, by the way,
he really is.
There's the R.
Yeah. And if anything on that guy, I hear a very mild stitch.
Which guy?
But the guy, I don't know his name. But
Lionel Richie.
To be in the
she's gonna play
sound.
it.
'Cause I wonder where you are.
I think it has
'Cause I
nasality.
wonder where you are.
And then maybe a bit of the stitch. But
'Cause
it's
I
not
wonder
fluid.
where you are. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know who it
I think
reminds
so
me?
that-
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. But people tend to conflate R with all other kinds of Kermit or Knödel. So to a classically trained singer or even like a musical theater singer, vocalizing the R is a mistake. What they do in musical theaters, wonder where you are, and then at the end of the
Yeah.
syllable, they either go to R or they do it like British.
Or skip it.
Ah.
Yeah, just skip it. 'Cause I wonder where you are.
Yeah, and what he's
Nothing.
doing is wonder where you are. He's kind of doing an in between thing. So
Okay.
they notice this is different. It must be Knödel. It's not though.
Yeah. But then she's gonna do the Fleming thing. So 1 second. And she gets it. Sorry, but she's so like not close.
Yeah.
And I wonder what you do. So
No
that
Knödel.
retraction is happening.
Yeah,
so
the retraction
let's
is
check out
happening.
Renee Fleming singing Casta Diva.
I
And
don't
want you
like
to
her, by the
look at
way.
her tongue.
Can you tell?
Watch her tongue and notice when it is retracted and notice when it isn't retracted.
She reminds me of one of those girlfriends who just like she doesn't just destroy your life, like she convinces everyone in your family that you're the one destroying your life. Anyway. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, very quiet.
Notice
Second, I'll turn this up a bit.
retracted and notice when it isn't retracted.
That has it. A little bit. That had
has
a
bit of
little bit.
stitch.
Hey, Michael Caliplip, we're doing vibrato in some other live stream on another channel. Today we're doing Knödel. We're looking at the Knödel today. So, but cool thoughts about the vibrato. Thanks, Michael.
Notice, can we see it here?
A little bit more, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe this is a case of like she started using it later in her
That's like the Marilyn Horn thing.
career. Also, you think with the stitch thing or with everything?
Stitch.
With the Knödel, okay.
Stitch, and then maybe also a bit of the R tongue, but it's hard to see. It's funny that
Okay.
she says, "Look at her tongue," and then she explains why you don't see the tongue.
Yes, I said that yesterday, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you know.
I didn't,
Of course you know, because you watch my show religiously.
But it's an interesting move to make, as a teacher, because if you're doing this fast enough, if you're like, look there, did you see it now? Anyway, couldn't have seen it because it's not possible. But look at this one. Did you see that one? Oh, same case, but this one. If you confuse the student quickly enough, what they're gonna remember is she showed me a lot of things,
Right.
and they were very complicated.
But no, but the way this sequence gets weird.
So there's a so the tip is forward, but the dorsum is up and the root of the tongue is back. See it?
No, see it? Right when you can't see it.
I think I
And
know
still
how
back?
this happened though. I think she was doing it in this kind of live stream mode.
And then
to-
maybe,
she probably just
yeah.
did a reaction video and she hoped for it to come again. It didn't, so she
Yeah.
came up with
Yeah, maybe.
an explanation of why you couldn't see it now. Instead of just being transparent, being like, "Oh shit, you don't see it anymore." Skip back.
Oh, that was a different video. Okay, so now there's no knurtle now. And that's consistent
No, I
with what
don't.
you said, that it's not going to be working in that range. So,
Mhm.
and that was Geta also. Although Geta was in much lower range, Geta was dropping the knurtle when he went higher in his range. So it seemed like a middle voice strategy.
Mhm.
And it seems to transpose as a middle voice strategy, like up an octave for the sopranos. Yeah.
Now it's changed. See how it's flattened now? She definitely, because it went a lot higher, that particular strategy wasn't going to work anymore. So she adapted more.
So that she's
to,
right there. That's a good. So she's good. It's good to point it out that it's a middle voice strategy. So if you want to experiment with knurtle types, type 1, type 2, or type 3, then don't go looking for your high notes there.
Potentially having more twang in the sound. There's still
Do you think
that
there's
element.
anything to saying that like maybe having a knurtle based middle, so if like especially like what Nikolai Geta was doing, might leave you really kind of not tired when you go for your high C. So then if you're going to do an RD, reduced density edge kind of high C, so that you're quite fresh. You haven't been like killing yourself trying to sing a big middle, you know?
I think if you wanted to do it efficiently, there's a couple of considerations. Namely, the Kermit especially will take away metal. So don't try to be super loud with it.
Right.
It's more of a mezzo, forte, whatever, coordination. If you don't push over that volume limit, it's not going to be too tiring. But then it has to fit the music. And then the second thing is, because it's a different mode, it's also different airflow. So you have to make a very conscious switch back and forth. If you have too slow of an airflow with the Kermit, like if you come from a metallic thing, to the Kermit, it's gonna feel very constricted and tense.
Right.
So it's you have to be more loose for the Kermit to work. And then the other way around is even more important, I think, because if you have this high airflow in a metallic setting, it's gonna be pushed like that. I'm not even exaggerating. That was my Kermit airflow.
Right. Yeah.
So I have to. It's like going on the highway and then going back to the into the city with your car, where it's like, I didn't realize I was that fast. I mean, it's a very German problem, I think.
Right. Well, we could hear Geta's version of it had really high pressure.
Yeah.
So that all of his cutoffs were really, really audible.
Yeah. And the pressure is somewhat independent of the flow in neutral. So in metallic singing, more pressure usually goes along with less flow.
Right.
In neutral, they're kind of independent. You could have high flow and low pressure. You could have high flow and high pressure. It's louder. That's the.
But no, wait. So how is the pressure getting high if you have high flow? I don't. Isn't the pressure
in neutral,
like from
in neutral? Both kind of work the same way because the resistance is different. I could have, it's very high flow. I couldn't sustain that longer than 5 seconds because the air is gone. But
so
I
it's
have
not,
much
so I
volume.
think it must be lower pressure too. No.
No, because it's higher pressure.
I see. Okay, so it just goes by really, really fast. Gotcha.
Yeah. It's like
gotcha. Okay,
and that's counterintuitive for someone who doesn't sing a lot in neutral,
right?
Or like especially like loud neutral. When neutral is only a low volume strategy for you, then you never do it with high pressure.
Right.
That's the interesting thing. I do this a lot in indie rock, where it's like na 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 na, like this kind of stuff, really pushy neutral.
Right.
It's not metallic. And the main difference, there's two main differences. The first difference is an advantage, namely my sound is not as harsh. as if I went for metal. And I don't like too harsh of a sound with acoustic guitars. The disadvantage is my airflow is much less efficient. I'm gonna get more into this kind of thing very quickly, so I have to very consciously relax between the phrases. The phrases cannot be too long because I waste more air. Right, so the singing is less efficient that way. But if you know that it is, if you anticipate that, you can deal with it.
There's I think there's also maybe we should transition into some uses, some non-performing uses for Knödel, and then maybe wrap it up. So one cool thing about Knödel, I think, is that it is a kind of tongue retraction. So as much as I was beating up on this term because it's so imprecise, it's imprecise as far as describing a vocal technique, but it's really precise as far, like, from the point of view of physiology. So if you start from the basis of tongue retraction and you were able to, for instance, constrict area of interest number 4, like you were showing earlier, I could show it now, and do and I'm basically trying to, like, touch my soft palate with the back of my tongue. I can even do it like that. And make this kind of tickle back there. And now I know that this is narrowing, and I could start to draw my way down mentally, feel my way down to what's below there, and start to experiment with all the ways I can create narrowing below this point. And then can I lower the whole larynx and then also create narrowing? And how is that different from creating narrowing when I raise my larynx, like in terms of feeling? And can I always, so etc. There's all these things to figure out and play with, but one way you can do it is by pulling your tongue back and raising your larynx, and then trying to basically shove all of that down. And think of passively or actively, whatever you want, but think of squeezing area of interest number 3. And if you go to the series I have on visualizing vocal acoustics, or you just back up in this live stream, there's a quick diagram of where that is, but basically it's towards your larynx. And I think the situation we're looking at is when you have narrowing higher up in the vocal tract, or later on in the vocal tract, I guess, but not a lot of narrowing in area of interest what I call area of interest number 3. I don't know what Tony calls it, near the larynx, I guess.
Laryngopharynx.
Laryngopharynx. So, and if you were to narrow the laryngopharynx at the same time as you were retracting the tongue into, I guess, the oropharynx, then your Knödel wouldn't even be a Knödel anymore. So the same anatomical gesture, I guess, could now have a completely different acoustic significance as far as your sound goes, because it wouldn't be this narrowing that's happening after a really wide laryngopharynx, or as I call it, area of interest number 3. It would be something else entirely. It would be like just 1/3 of the way along a megaphone shape, which is a totally different acoustic situation, right? And the other cool thing about this is, like, it doesn't matter what you put in an area of interest. All that matters is that you narrowed it. So it may be that your tongue does it in one instance, and that maybe that something else is accidentally doing it in another instance.
Yeah.
So, but that's the one thing I would say is that you can use if you have like Kermit the Frog, ah 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 ah. You could work on taking that squeeze and putting it somewhere else. And if you have to squeeze something else now, then whatever. But you're taking the concept of squeeze of a specific place, relative to your larynx and the end of your mouth, I guess, that does a certain thing to your sound.
Yep.
That's all I have to say about that.
Nice.
What about you?
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Okay. Yeah, so well, I guess thanks for coming on. This has been Mr. Opera, and I've been talking with this guy, Tony Linka. Yep. And Tony is a voice teacher and also has his own channel. We should put that in the video description so that people can see it later. Can you put could you put that in the chat maybe, Tony? Or just
Yeah.
You don't have to put just ping yourself so that you'll be like the last one in the live chat or something. But anyway, he's been in the live chat as well here, and we've got him in an earlier live stream actually singing Nasun Dorma. So if you want to see a metal singer and rock and roll singing teacher with some opera chops, then check it out. Check out Tony Linka and hit him up for lessons or whatever else that you need. And yeah, so like, subscribe, and thanks. So yeah, so thanks for joining us, Tony. And any plugs you want to make before you go or anything like that?
Go to my website if you like nerdy stuff. There's lots of free material there.
What is the
That's
website?
it. I put it into the chat. It should appear.
Okay, so
But
check
for
the
some
chat.
reason for some reason it's not there yet, but my website is tony-linka.com.
All right, so
Should
thanks
work
for
now.
joining us, and I guess I'll see you soon, Tony.
See you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to. There we go. Oh, there we go. So, this has been Mr. Opera. Thanks for joining us, guys and gals. We were talking about Knödel today, and I guess what some might call artificial darkness.
Dovrebbe un cantante servirsi della voce di petto? No.
Yeah, I meant to do this.
It's a fake.
Anyhow, let me know what kind of topics you'd like us to cover. If you have any examples of any of the three types of Knödel that Tony was talking about today, or anything else related to today's live stream, or especially if you have some clips that you'd like to watch of your favorite singers, etc., etc., you can also send in your own singing to the real Mr. Opera at gmail.com, which is also the place to get in touch with me for lessons, etc. And if you want, we can put you up on the show. I can put your video on or just your audio, and you can give it a try. Playing your music for other people, showing other people your singing, and maybe you don't even have to say who you are. No one has to know that you're actually doing it. And you can see what people say when they're unfiltered. Or it's not unfiltered, it's the internet filter. People are mean on the internet, so I gotta warn you. But since we can keep your name secret, then you can kind of practice getting these comments and working with them. You can get a lot of crap and grief from posting your stuff online, but also you can wind up getting the best criticisms and some good encouragement and important information. So consider that. I'm going to play a little commercial for you. And then I'm going to head out and eat some dinner. I hope you have a good night or a good day, whatever it is that's coming up for you now. Or maybe I hope you had a good day. I'm glad you're here, and I'm really glad that I'm here. And before I go, one moment, I'm going to play this for you, and I will be right back. Right. So you may have noticed that I have an assistant now. And I've got a name. I'm Mr. Opera, you know. I stole my name from this tweaker voice teacher, but my assistant doesn't have a name. And I was thinking maybe we could give him a name. Maybe we could as a channel, think of a name for this critter. As you can see, he's a bit sleepy. We had a long day of picking mats out of his hair and then shaving it really short. He's a very sweet guy. And he's my new sidekick. He's my new assistant. And he needs a name. So, let me know what you think might be good names for the sidekick for Mr. Opera. Sidekick, and also he's my security detail. He's very alert. If anyone tries to sneak away with any kind of salmon treats, he's gonna tell me. Anyway, so let me know your suggestions for a name for this animal. You can write those at therealmropera@gmail.com. Have a good night.
The tongue affects your singing a lot.
Suddenly everybody is talking about the tongue.
Where exactly should you place your tongue when you're singing?
I always say that your tongue should be placed in a very natural position.
And is there an ideal tongue position that if you were to use it, you'll become a better singer?
If the color of your voice is attached to the position of your tongue, so if you manipulate your color with the tongue, you are creating a fake color.
It's a fake.
A dark that doesn't really exist.
I created it, and it's real.
You are creating a fake color.
It's a fake.
Actually, if you saw that my tongue is not in a tense state, it's actually in a very relaxed state. In fact, it's pulling even farther away.
Larynx and pharynx open. Gola aperta. Words of Giacomo Lauri Volpi.
Open throat technique.
Arturo Melocchi used to say, tenga la lingua avanti. Keep your tongue forwards. Okay? You can hear it here. Tenga la lingua avanti. Tenga la lingua avanti.
And also because we are singing with a high positioned tongue, the sound that comes out of your air pipe gets reflected on your hard palate on the top and goes directly out.
It should be natural.
I always say that your tongue should be placed in a very natural position.
The important thing is to keep your larynx and pharynx open.
If your tongue is in a low position, the tongue itself will partly be in your throat, in the back of your throat.
I use my tongue so that I can maintain good open throat technique.
Tongue rocks straight back. Here's where the tongue does not go up, but the tongue retracts back.
And what you're going to find is that if the tongue is tensing, you're going to actually see the tongue narrowing.
Now, I always say that your tongue should be placed in a very natural position.
You're tearing me apart! What? You say one thing, he says another, and everybody changes back again!